Okay, in the next few sections, I will be looking here at question 4 on page 58 and question 5 on page 59, explaining how to look at stem and leaf diagrams, to analyze them and to draw them up. Okay, so we're starting here at question 4, and we just want to, I suppose, take our time with these different stem and leaf diagrams because they are so easy to make mistakes on. Okay, so I'm going to read question 4 now, and then we'll maybe give you a few tips before I show you the solutions for this. So 2 classes took part in a fitness test. Each student did as many sit-ups as he or she could do in 1 minute. The results are shown below. So we see the results here for class 1. The minimum here we can see is 32 sit-ups, and the maximum here is 63 sit-ups. For class 2, we have a minimum of 34 sit-ups, and for class 2 as well, we have a maximum of 64 sit-ups. If you look carefully at this data, you can see here that all of the data is already ordered. So I can bear that in mind when I'm drawing my stem and leaf diagram, that I do not have to order this information. We are told for part A that we want to copy and complete the back-to-back stem and leaf plot below. Now, before I show you the solutions to this, I want to talk to you about a few tips I would give you. I would say to you, a good way to do this is if you had your book in front of you, you put your finger on each number and your other writing hand then is down here at your stem and leaf diagram, and you are filling in the information as you go. So I have my finger now on 32, okay? Do you know what? I'll start with class 2 first of all, because I just want to talk about the one that you're used to first of all. So 34, okay? So what I would do is I would have my finger here on 34, and at the same time, I would be writing 4 in here, and that's, you can see, is already done for you. I then move my finger across to the next one, which is 35, and I write in 35. Okay, you keep going across 36, 38, 40, okay, until you have completed this stem and leaf diagram. So it'll be 4 followed by 0. And then again, the next one will be 4 followed by 2, 4 followed by 3, all the ways across. If you look at this stem and leaf diagram, what you can see here is that that they have represented the row 3 twice, and the same for 4 and the same for 5. And the only reason they've done that is because they needed the space, because there's a lot of numbers here that are occurring here, especially on 4 and 5, and you need the space, and that's why they are drawn in that way. Okay, so you should be familiar with the stem and leaf diagram, we'll say, from last year, where you had a stem on the left and you had a leaf on the right. Okay, and you can recognize here that these stems represent the number of tens in this case. Okay, so in this case that there are 3 tens, which is 30, and then we're basically, the number on the right there, which is in the leaf section, represents the first I suppose number of units. So we're talking about 34 there, and followed by 35, followed by 36, 38, and is following on from that. Working backwards, and this is what's new, is a back-to-back stem and leaf diagram means that you have to work backwards. So on the left, this is class 1. So what they've done here is they put their finger on 32 and they wrote in 2 here. And recognizing that if I'm going backwards, 3 here is 30, okay, and the 2 over here is 2. So that's 32 as a number. But when you look at it, I suppose a common mistake on this one is people read it off straight as what they see, which is 2 line 3, and think that must be 23. Don't make that mistake, okay? So for this one, it's working backwards. And you can see here they followed the same order. They've gone 3, 5, 3, 3. Now look at this one here, 3, 5. No, look at the wrong one. 3, 5, 3, 5. Okay, and there's no more numbers there on, I suppose, below 40. So the next number you'd have to put in here would be 4, 0, followed by 4, 2, 4, 3, 4, 5, 4, 6, 4, 6, 4, 7. And then you might run out of space. You can go down onto the next row then and write in 4, 8, 4, 8. Okay, and that's how you would draw a stem and leaf diagram. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to skip on here and show you the solutions. I highly recommend that you do a bit of color coding on this one when you're dealing with stem and leaf diagrams. Okay, so you'll see an awful lot of color here on the examples I'm showing you in a bit. Um, and really, again, as I said, the main thing here is just taking your time and putting your entries into the stem and leaf nice and slowly, putting one finger on the number and you're using your writing hand to write in numbers as you go. And you can fly through one of these tables then and put all your numbers into the stem and leaf diagram. One thing that tends to catch people out here is this section down here, which is basically when I want to, draw a key. Okay, so a key here is something that will show us what these numbers mean. Okay, so if I look here, I can see here that line. So we have line here. Okay, no, line here 6, line 4 means that the number is 64. Okay, you can see here that I could pick any number here and I could represent it similarly. Okay, so for example, I could have said line 4, line 6 equals 46. Or I could have even picked maybe I pick one of these trees over here. So line 4, line 3 is equal to 43. Every stem and leaf diagram, guys, needs a key. You will lose marks if you don't do this. You can see here I've done one on the right as well. So when you look here on the right, you can see here that you are dealing with 5 line 5 line. Okay, let's find where we can find 5 line 5 line. So there's a 5 line. Now that's definitely not there. It's down here. Okay, so 5 line 5 and line that's equal to 55. So 5 line 5. So that's basically 55. Okay, and that's how you'd use a stem and leaf diagram. So can you, if I point to these different numbers, can you guess what the number is? Okay, so when we look at this one here, that number there is 59. Okay, and you would represent that as 9 line 5 line. Okay, and next one here, I might represent this as it's 48, but it would be 8 line 4 line. So this sequence here of representing numbers is what is, I suppose, the standard in stem and leaf diagrams, and it just takes a bit of getting used to. Okay, so the next thing now we want to look at is the questions that were asked in the book. Okay, so we pop back here to this and we look at the questions. What was the minimum number of sit-ups by a student in the next test? I'm going to just flip onto the next page now as well. Why is this not working? Okay, I'm going to have to go back into the scan and I'm going to go through the answer. So it says the minimum number of sit-ups. So what you have to do here, like up here, this represents 64. So that's obviously a lot of sit-ups. If you go back towards the start, you will find the answer, okay? Now, these students on the right for class 2, the minimum number there was 34, okay? But for this one, you can see here that it was 32. Okay, so 32 appears to be the minimum number of sit-ups that was done by a student in class 1 and class 2. So that was the minimum number of sit-ups done overall. Okay, right, can I get out of this now and go on to the next page? Okay, I think we're stuck on this page. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to call out the question for you, and then we can maybe hold on now, unless maybe I go click on this. So it's completely frozen. Right. The next thing then is I could go on to C. Okay, and C here asks us a question: what was the maximum number of sit-ups by a student in the test? Okay, and you can see here the maximum number. Well, that was 64. Okay, so 64 sit-ups were done by students, and if you look here on the left, there was 60 done by the student, there was 61 done by this student, and 63 done by this student over here. So definitely the maximum number of sit-ups done overall was 64. Right, I cannot show you the table because the book is frozen, but what I will show you here is the next part here, part D. In part D, and I'll read it out to you, you were told here to copy and complete the diagram in front of you. Okay, the writing in black is what was given in the question, so 2 and 1 in here, 3 and 7 over here, and we're told to fill out the rest of the information in front of us. Right, to do this, first of all, you have to analyze the table and say, okay, what does 30 to 34 mean? This means the student has done between 30 and 34 sit-ups. We must include 30, 31, 32, 33, and Normally, we'd question whether we would include 34 there, um, but we can see here actually, if we look at this stem and leaf diagram, we would notice that they did in fact include um, they did in fact include the 34. So therefore, I'm going to stick to the same kind of method that they used, which is I'm going to include 34 as well. Okay, so if you look at that, how did I get that number here, number 2? Okay, that's the first thing you need to ask yourself. So we're looking at class 1, and we're looking at students here who got between 30 to 34 in class 1. So class 1 is here. Now, so if you look here, you can see that there are a student here who got 32, and there's a student who got 33. So therefore, that's 2 students in class 1. Okay, and there's no students who got 34 exactly on class 1. If you look here in class 2, though, this student got exactly 34. The next one got 35. So you can see here that's why they got a 1 for class 2. So you just repeat that process there, and you literally have to count it. Now, when you're doing a question like this, again, as I said, stem and leaf diagrams can get really complicated sometimes, and it's very easy to miss a number, okay? It's so easy to make a mistake on this. So color code, okay? So you can see here, I've color coded all the numbers here that lay between 35 to 39, so I'm including 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. And I've colored that in red, and the same for blue, so 40, 41, 42, 43, 44. I literally counted all of those numbers if they fell within that range. So if you look up here, that's why there's so many colors here drawn underneath all of these numbers, so that I can find all of these numbers and I can add them to this table. And you can see here I've worked it out here, all in blue writing, and I've completed that. The next thing then it says is work out the percentage of students who were in class 1 who met these conditions. So to do this, what you need to think about there is how many students are there in class 1 in total, okay? Because if I'm going to work this out as a percentage of the class, I need to know how many students there are. When you add all these numbers up in class 1, you could find that there are 28 students, okay? And then it's just a matter of putting your number as a fraction, and then remember to multiply by 100 over 1 to get it into a percentage. That's 2 over 28 multiplied by 100 over 1 gives you 7%. Okay, it's not exactly 7%, but for the purpose of this, I'm going to round it to 7%. And skipping on, then we have 3 over 28, 6 over 28, 6 over 28 again, and you just repeat the process there until you work out the percentages for all of class 1. Now, for class 2, there's a different number of students, so you have to be careful not to put that over 28, because all you have to do is add all of these up again and put it over 26 in this case because there's 26 students. And again, it's just a matter of repeating the process. So there's 3 over 26, 7 over 26, etc. Right, if we look here at the next and final question, what it actually asks is this. It says, using the results from the table above, describe how each class performed. And when you look at it, you should be able to see at a glance how well the students performed looking at this table here in front of us. Any student here who got 50 to 54 or above um, obviously performed really well. And if we look here, we can work out that, okay, the numbers here are close enough here, as we go further downwards. But you can see here that definitely the first class here seemed to perform really well here. If you add up all these percentages, any student who got 50 or above, and you can see here that there's 53% of those in class 1 compared to only 28% in class 2. And that'd be one comparison you could make there, or you maybe could just look at the top 2 kind of ranges. So the minimum number of students was still bigger if you look at 55 to 64. Okay, and you could even compare the bottom numbers here, and you could find that class 1 there's less people that falling down here in the lower numbers for sit-ups in class 1. So there's an awful lot to take in here when it comes to stem and leaf diagrams. But again, in summary, what we should know about this is this: when you have a table of data in front of you, you first draw out your stem and leaf diagram, and you do it in an unordered way. Okay. If the data is ordered for you already, that's brilliant. You can just pop it in. You don't have to draw it out a second time. Okay. Put your finger on the number and write with your other hand. Once you've drawn out your stem and leaf diagram, do not forget your key. Okay, the key is very straightforward to draw in, and do it for your stem or your leaf on the right and your leaf on the left. Once you've done all of that, you make use of your colors, okay? So if you are asked any questions on this, make sure that you're using a highlighter or maybe coloring pens or anything to highlight the different information. It makes it so much easier, okay? And then don't forget your basics, okay? Like working out percentages, working out fractions, all of that is fine then. Okay, so that was question 4. The next video will be on question 5.